Welcome to the Collective Genius Podcast, the show for real estate investors who are looking to scale.
All right, welcome back into the Collective Genius Podcast, the podcast for real estate investors that want to continue to grow and scale their businesses. I am your host, Leon Barnes, and today I have another longtime Collective Genius member and highest level back-to-back shows here with CG CEO member, Mr. Phil Green, all the way from San Diego. How are you, my friend?
Great. Thanks for having me on, Leon.
It's a pleasure. It's my honor and my pleasure to have you on. I think we're 8-9 shows deep now. I've been trying to get, I have such a cornucopia and a list of members that I want to get to. I have so many, and so I'm excited to have this conversation with you here today, Phil. There's, as I was saying pre-show, there are so many things I've learned about members, and I feel like I know membership really, really well. But from these podcasts, I've learned a lot, and hopefully the audience will today as well. So why don't we start out with this? There are a lot of people that will be listening to this that know you, but I'm sure there are some that don't. So why don't we start off with where you do business? And I know you have a multitude of businesses and niches underneath the umbrella, but why don't we start there with what you do and where you do it?
So we operate out of Southern California. We just had the major fires. That's going to be really interesting. Maybe we'll get into that later. We've been here for over a decade now. I was actually born and raised here, so I think I'm one of the few. Absolutely love it. It's definitely a different market. It's competitive. A lot of people ask me why we operate in this market because it's so challenging. But I think that's a big part of why we like it. And it's definitely helped us grow into the businesses that we've got into, I think, because it's been so challenging. I'll lead more into that later.
Yeah. So based in San Diego, I know a lot about, read a lot about the fires and, saw all the videos. Did it get that far south down to you guys?
We have some small ones over here just because it's so dry. It doesn't even make sense right now. Like, your part of the country is so cold.
Yeah,
we're so dry. We have no rain this entire winter. The whole country is upside down. I don't know what's going on this year.
It's interesting because, it seems like, we come your way at least a couple times a year. And the last few times I've been out in San Diego, it's been cold and rainy. And upon researching more about these fires, most of Southern California hasn't had a drop of rain since July of 24, which is crazy to think about because it seems like every time I'm there, at least in San Diego, it seems like it has rained, which is super rare for that particular area of the country.
It is crazy. The city actually admitted, it all makes sense now. They admitted to doing cloud seeding for the last 2 years. That's why we had so much rain. And we asked ourselves, if you just create rain from whatever they create it from with cloud seeding, what happens when you stop? And I think we figured that out since July. There hasn't been an ounce of water anywhere.
Well, can't you just do that again? If you've got fires, can't we just go?
I figure, why did they just do it one weekend and just put everything out, right? It makes sense, but I don't know. I don't pull the chain, so.
Well, has it affected your businesses? I know you said you're in San Diego, you had some small ones. Have you seen any effects on business there?
Fortunately for us, no, but I think in LA, it's greatly affected their business. Some of those communities are going to take years to rebuild. Very similar to the Maui fires, Lahaina, for those of you that are familiar with Hawaii, what happened there. I've got a friend I went to school with. He's just starting the build of his house, this many years later, and the majority of homes are still vacant, just sitting there. It's going to be a decade till you see that Lahaina community rebuilt, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see the same thing in LA.
Yeah. So based in Southern California, very super competitive market. You, if I remember correctly, started out on the retail side, brokerage, still have that. Give a little bit of background of beyond the brokerage and fix and flip. What else do you do there in Southern California?
So we started the business, it's been 11 years ago. Yeah. On the brokerage side, got out of grad school, had an MBA in finance and real estate. And I just really looked at the industry and I said, hey, if I understand the brokerage side, understand how to go find deals, it'll probably lead me to become an investor. So as I did that for the first year, it did, found off-market deals, found homes with cracked foundations and all kinds of repairs. And back then there was foreclosures and short sales, all those different opportunities, and took on some investment deals. And from there, I built an investment business. It's fix and flip. And over the years, it's grown into multifamily. We do Airbnbs, buy and holds. We now have a property management team for short-term and the long-term rentals behind that. And with that, with the last 10 years of collective experience of figuring out what works on Google, what works with mail, what works with all these different marketing channels in such a hyper-competitive market, we've grown into having these marketing companies that now are extremely successful throughout the country. And looking back, we didn't know any better. This is our only market we operated in, so we just had to figure out how to make it work. And now seeing across the country that this same formula works so well for all the top operators and big operators in CG that now use us, it's pretty cool watching the transformation that's occurred over the last decade.
Phil, it's very rare that we see real estate investors, whether it's in our community or just in general, that have as much success in different layers of this industry. You're one of the rare breeds that can do so many different things and do them well. What do you attribute that to?
I'm really fortunate. As a kid, I don't think I wasn't playing the sport from about age 5. And whether it was I was the quarterback and the captain of the team or whatever role it was, I always ended up being in that leadership role where I was either helping the coach or part of the decision making that allowed us to put each person in the strongest role in that team. Mm-hmm. And I think for so many years I did that, and it became a gift where I immediately look at people. I have now adopted, the predictive index and these assessments that I absolutely love. And I think it's all part of this bigger picture. I look at people and I can't immediately think, oh, you're really good at this. You're naturally inclined to do this. You're probably in this role. And it's gotten to a point where even in interviews, I can guess very quickly what someone does just after a couple questions or just hearing them talk. And I think that same strength came from childhood with sports all the way up to even high school sports, just seeing what people were good at and then giving them that path to where they did what they loved and they could succeed. And then when others see that you have that vision and can help them grow, they come along with you. And then pretty soon you have an army of people smarter, better than you at what they do, and you're moving forward. And I think that's really probably my strongest strength.
That's rare for a kid to know that early on, and maybe that was something that you realized later. Was there somebody in your family, someone that you were around that that was similar?
It's funny. My parents asked me that the other day. They're like, "We're so different than you. Like, how did you end up that way?" It's funny. I just, I guess I just didn't know any better. And I was so competitive. I wanted to win. So many times I would sit there after practice and we just kind of test different things out. Who was better here or there, and what was a better fit or what was a better play, and what would be a better strategy in this situation. And then over the years, you get 10,000 hours of doing it, and it starts to really click. And you can kind of see similar traits in one person as another, whether it's on the basketball team, the football courts, or, baseball, whatever it was we're playing. You could then use a similar strategy to win, I guess, is ultimately what it was at that age. And it transferred into business. I feel like business is just another version of a team sport, but we do it as adults, right?
It is. So I don't have to ask you your superpower. I already know it. I knew it before this, but I really know it now. While you were assessing on the football team, other kids and where their highest and best use would be, what did you, outside of sports, anticipate or want to do? Like, I really want to play sports. I really want to be a lawyer. What is it that young Phil aspired to do when he got older?
I think I was all over the place. When I first started as a young kid, I was extremely patriotic. And I don't know if you guys had that presidential national award thing when you were kids. We had to do like push-ups, pull-ups, and all that. And I decided I wanted to be a Navy SEAL because I thought they were so cool. So I think
And they're in your backyard. That helped.
Yeah, they're right here. So you hear all about them, right? Because they're always training down here. I think I worked an hour or two a day for a year straight on push-ups and pull-ups. I went from 0 to 27 pull-ups. I set the record in the school. Did the same thing with push-ups. Did every single one. And hit that. And then I decided, maybe I don't want to do that. I want to be a police officer. Then I wanted to be a firefighter. Then I wanted to be an attorney. I guess part of my personality is I'm constantly changing what I'm totally focused on. So I think, I don't think I ever stuck with anything for more than 2 or 3 years. I'd always start or try something new.
That explains the multiple businesses and multiple disciplines within real estate and service provider businesses, which we'll get to in a bit, but it explains it. You've got that kind of that 3 to 4 year itch that most entrepreneurs that are high level typically have, and they want to go and create new things. And it sounds like that was something that you were doing very early on, but I can't let this go. Like your parents weren't like that. So what about grandparents? Was there someone around you that was driven at this level? Because for a kid to say, I want to be a Navy SEAL and I'm going to do all of these push-ups to break records, that's not something that just you wake up with. I mean, that's maybe you do from genetics, but there has to be someone, an influence, someone gave you that.
Yeah, my dad was a big sports guy. He still is to this day. And he would be the one that took me to every event, whether we were going to the state championships or whatever we were in. And they put me in, I was very fortunate. They sacrificed very hard to put me in the top private school out here. So I was against very competitive kids that come from strong backgrounds. And many of those kids were, sons of CEOs and different individuals like that. So it was very competitive. Like even today on my StrengthsFinder, my number one trait is competitive. I love the game.
I believe that.
The game is so much fun. It's just, you take away the game and I'll just go find a new one, right? I love the game. So I think I was raised with just a bunch of really competitive guys and we just beat each other up in every season, every sport. And it just became who we were. And my dad encouraged it. I mean, he was there all day like, hey, are you ready? We got the best team this week and this, and do you have the plan? And like we would game it together. So I'd give a lot of that to my dad. He's very competitive. He still is to this day. And my mom was strong too. She's very strong-willed. She wasn't as into sports, but I think the fact that she's a lot stronger type A than my dad, I got that from her. So it was a mix.
So you got the type A side from there, and you've got the sports and the competitive. So it's a nice blend, it sounds like. I'm guessing you were pretty good. Obviously, you mentioned you were good in sports. What about academics? I have a feeling that you did pretty well competing with academics as well.
Yeah, I was never the valedictorian, the kid that set the curve. I think I was just too unfocused.
Yeah,
but I think
you're an entrepreneur even then.
I was usually second or third in my class in math. And in a private school where kids are pretty smart, math came easy to me. Like my dad's dream, because he was a little more introverted than me, he always wanted me to be an electrical engineer. He's like, you got the math ability, you can be that person. I was like, Dad, I can't sit in a room and do numbers 8 hours.
But you have that brain. He's right. You have that type of brain where you think you have competitive with that engineering mindset, where you can create structure and then lead people to be competitive, to be number one. I think one thing that, I see across the board with high-level CG members is that they're all super focused and all are highly intelligent and want to do the best that they possibly can. I can't tell you how many conversations the two of us have had where you have said, why do anything if you can't do it at the highest level? Whether that's fishing, which is obviously a hobby of yours that we'll get to in a bit, but there's a common thread there. But I think when it comes to all of the members that I know, there's no one that I know that is always focused on maximizing the talent and maximizing that particular core piece of your business at the highest level. Whatever you do, it doesn't have to just be business. You do it for everything, and that's a compliment to you, but it also speaks to your success.
Well, thanks, Leon. I guess a large portion of my life, I never even realized it was a great trait to have. I just did it and loved what I did, and it was funny. I actually didn't even realize it. This is how low my self-awareness was as a kid until I was in college, and we had a billionaire come in, really cool guy, and he spoke to us and he said, "Hey guys, how many of you here are willing to put every dollar you have up right now in a business to become a multimillionaire?" And only like maybe 6 of us raised our hand. They were willing to risk everything, right? He goes, "Well, you 6 will probably be millionaires." And he goes, "The rest of you, I'm hiring." And he hands out applications, and people's faces were like really insulted in this class. It was really funny. In the next activity, he goes, "I'm going to give you guys a word, and in 60 seconds, you got to write out every possible thing you can do with this word, and let's see who gets the most." And he goes, "Blanket." And I didn't realize that I wrote out every possible usage for it. And I had the most in the class. And he's like, "You 3 will be CEOs. You're great at ideas and ideation." And I sat there and I was like, really? I never thought my whole life, I was like the sports kid that did this. I never thought I'd be a CEO, that I had the ability to come up with these ideas. And I just thought everybody thought that way. So it wasn't until like I actually had that self-actualization in college that I realized, oh, I guess I could be something else. It's crazy the journey you take and where you end up sometimes. It really is something.
I think that what you just hit on, though, is so important. Usually it's teachers or coaches. In your particular case, it was a billionaire speaker that came in. But generally, it's that confirmation that, hey, I see something in you that maybe you don't see in yourself. Like that coach that probably told you were, that maybe you weren't as good as you thought you were at the time, but they saw something in you and they said, "This is what I really see in you. If you tweak these things, you'll be even better." And that first time you get that confirmation that you're really good at something, it helps really shape your path. In your particular case, I'm sure that was pretty influential to you to where you got to today. But before we get into the real estate piece of this, I've always found this very fascinating because I think the biggest strength of the culture that you build in your companies is gamification. And I know that I don't know where this was, and so I wanted to ask it here on the podcast. Between real estate and college, where was poker playing and high level gaming? Where did that come in?
We did a lot of that in college and even younger too. Yeah, I think there's just one more game, one more sport is kind of the way we looked at it. And it involved teamwork, building strategies, working together. And I became captain because I just naturally always was inclined to do that. Put everyone in the strongest situation, the best place they were in each situation. And we won a world championship. And in college, that was amazing. $250,000 was so much money back then.
That was on the gaming side.
Yeah, on gaming. It was really something.
What was the game?
It was Battlefield. Modern combat.
I wouldn't know it. I've never been a gamer myself, but
it's still popular.
It's a team effort battle game, I guess.
Yeah, it's very similar to how you'd infiltrate a city, I guess, in the Middle East.
Like a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, literally, it's a teamwork effort, and everyone has strengths, and it's coordinated. And if somebody drops the ball, your team gets killed.
Hmm. What
So,
was the like winning that? What year? What year in college was that?
oh man, maybe the first year. That was a while.
First year, you guys as a team win $250,000.
We did, yeah. I think we'd played video games for quite a few years, though. We definitely had, thousands of hours
Mm-hmm.
getting good at it over the years. But it was no different than playing football every year for me.
Yeah,
You put a team together, you practice, you get as good as you can, as tight as you can. You come together and you play your best game.
yeah. So gaming, poker, college. When does real estate come into play?
I went and worked for corporate America for a while, worked my way up to a director of sales, and I got an MBA in finance and real estate because it always interested me. I always thought the path was you had to go work for Goldman Sachs on Wall Street. And I got fortunate. I got an introduction to a couple different investors doing short sales back then. And the bank was just giving away properties back then. It was crazy.
Now, is this because you were making a good living and you were looking at investing in real estate? Is that how this started?
No, I was looking to transition out of what I was doing and do my own thing.
Okay. How long did you do that? The sales side, corporate?
Did corporate for a while, till mid-20s. And I gave him a pretty bold idea of cutting a portion of this department, changing this. It was really bold for a young 20-something-year-old director to
I can
start
see it.
there. And I think a lot of the 20-plus year senior management didn't like it.
Of course not.
Even McKenzie. And they ended up offering something very similar a year later. And that was when I was like, I'm done. I handed my resignation.
Yep.
I think I'm going to go take my own ship somewhere. Even if I crash it, it'll be a fun trip along the way. So.
Right. You control your own destiny at that point. So you jump both feet into real estate. What does that look like?
I decided a smart way to do it would be to jump in as an agent. So, if I could make $500,000, $1 million a year, which commissions out here are fantastic, right? The average purchase price is $1 million. It'd be a great way to learn the industry, have a strong source of income while picking up deals. And it'd pretty much be a fail-safe way to get into the industry. So that's what I did. So I didn't have a need for immediate cash because I was selling deals and making money. It wasn't, really difficult to do your first.
How long did you do that? Just before you got into real investing side.
I did a first flip the first year. I just slowly did more and more over time as we were doing agent deals. So we did both. So that we always had a source of income coming in. So I wasn't stressed out or in a position where I wasn't able to, spend the extra money on marketing. I basically took all the money I made as an agent and just invested it in marketing to learn how to find more cash deals.
Got it. So you started that on the retail side while still doing some investment deals. As you said, they were giving away properties back then. When did you see this as, a viable and more than viable business on the investing, flipping side, building side, all the things? When did that really become, all right, I need to laser focus in on this?
Yeah, I did a flip. I made like $100,000 and I looked at it, I said, this makes a lot more sense for your time and effort. And you're providing value. You're returning a home to the community that was dilapidated, destroyed, and nobody wanted. There's value here. People need homes. And there's not enough nice homes here in Southern California. And at that time it clicked. I was like, there's value in doing this. And the market was so hot back then. Anything that was fixed up.
What year is this?
It was 2014, I think.
Okay. So 14 in San Diego, you're flipping, you're starting to realize that you got this early win. I was going to ask you what's your biggest win, but that's right out of the gates. That would have been your biggest win, a six-figure profit on a flip. What was the biggest lesson during that time? Because I know it wasn't all milk and honey, right? I'm sure there was one that, or two that were frustrating. What was the biggest lesson that you learned early on?
Oh, so many. They're countless. The first one made money, but the next two we lost.
Mm.
So I'm glad. I made money on that first one. It was learning how to deal with contractors. I think they're the toughest when you flip. And back then, if I could do it all over again, I think the greatest takeaway I have is to have a mentor or community. And I couldn't get into Collective Genius when I first started. There was already 2 investors in, and I was blocked for 3 years. If I had a group like the Collective Genius who could guide me, I mean, I must have wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars on different gurus and marketing sources that never converted. They're not even around today, right? They just took your money. If I would have had a trusted group of proven individuals guiding me, like we guide a lot of the new members, man, I would have been ahead so much faster than I was. But it took years of figuring it out on my own, and the community in a couple quarters could have helped me get there.
When was it you mentioned that you couldn't get in? How long had you been doing the investment side, the flipping side, until you found out about the Collective Genius? Like, was it the first year, second year?
I think it took 3 years. I just
3
kept
years?
messaging Jason every quarter. Hey, any opportunity? Did anybody leave? Because the 2 guys that were in, and it was just 2 people per market back then. And I couldn't get in. And then one day I heard one of them dropped out, and that was a great change. I was very fortunate to get in, and everything changed. Our business quickly scaled with the help of others who had done it and the right resources, and everything changed. That first quarter we joined Collective Genius.
Well, back then, I'm curious because I know how I found out about it in 2015. And I, coming from corporate myself, I had never really heard of a mastermind. How did you, like, somebody tell you about it? Because back then it was still, if you found out about it 2014 or 15, that's 5 years roughly into the group. It still would have been kind of underground and mostly known for elite level real estate investors. Did somebody in your market tell you about it? How'd you find out about it?
Yeah, it was other individuals in my market who were part of it.
You learned that they were in it. I want to grow like they are.
Mm-hmm.
So what is this thing that they're in?
Yep. And I just heard how great it was and how helpful it was to have another 100+ operators just like yourself working together to help each other elevate. You think about it, if you could multiply yourself by 100, there's a lot you could learn.
Tell me about that first meeting. What year is this? Because it was before I joined on this side. So it's been 6.5 years, almost 7 years now that I've been on this side. So it must have been 2016, 17?
I think it was 17. Yeah, it was 17.
Tell me about that first meeting in 2017. You walk in the room and what?
It was great. It was great to meet other people that have the same pain and struggles, and to hear similar stories. And many of them had already figured out a solution because they were a couple years ahead of you and they could help you avoid that additional pain. I think that was my biggest takeaway. It was awesome to find, different vendors, consulting groups. I think I bumped into Sharper. They helped us bring the level 10, crazy maverick like me's all over the place. So it just helped me focus and get the business under control. A lot of things happened. And I think what I did, I was very fortunate. I was a pretty good student in school. I always would take down my notes and have my list of 1 to 20, what I thought was the most important things to execute. And my goal was, I'd have 1 through 20 there in case I could get all 1 through 20 because I was so competitive. But I had to execute 1 to 3 every quarter. And anything past that was bonus, right? And sometimes I get them all. But I just knew if I got the top 3, those would be the biggest mover drivers in my business. And I did that for years. Every quarter I had my list. And I just fought so hard to execute those top 3. And you'd be surprised, a couple years down the road, you have a large, successful business that you wouldn't have ever imagined was possible prior to joining a group that, offers what the Collective Genius offers.
you mentioned Sharper and their business process and EOS and operating systems in general for entrepreneurs. That probably was a major, it sounds like that was a major impact for your business. Was there something at that first meeting that you took away that was one of those three that just you were struggling with that you can remember? I know that's been a while, but one that you really knew that you were struggling with at the group, immediately you met someone that could help you with it.
Yeah, number one on my list was Sharper, implementing that level 10 and getting a COO who could help manage the operations side. Because I came from a sales background and sales leadership and more that visionary CEO mindset. And I needed that leader who was strong on operations. And I think that level 10 meeting helped bring some clarity, and the employees wanted to kill me less with all the ideas being thrown at them all day. There was some method to the madness. And as soon as we clicked that in, we really started to move. That was the biggest mover or driver, I would say.
Yeah. So operationally, that was one of the first two, hiring someone to handle operations. Anything else that you can think of that your learning curve went from a 6-month time frame to a couple of months because you met someone that was already doing what you were trying to implement?
It would be marketing channels too. There was a lot of operators who had tested and used new marketing channels, and they had proven vendors that were the right guys. We just jumped on board and instantly saw leads come in and success. And I had become very protective because I'd reached out to so many different marketing channels I'd found online, but they all ended up being poor. They had no idea what they were doing. They're just really trying to make money on you. So it was tough to find, who were the vendors that had actually performed for me. And after talking to these guys and seeing their track records and their success, and then giving their vendors a try, that first event, it instantly, our deal volumes went right up.
Yeah, I know marketing for me was one that talking to people that, would be willing to share. This is 2015 for me, that would be willing to share what's working for them in their market was, I was blown away by that. And if I look at the feedback today, still, 10 years later, the feedback that typically, that no matter which level, members often say, love the event, could always use more conversations with members that are doing X well. Like it's the lifeblood of the organization, right? It's the give, it's the go-giving culture. And everyone wants to know, what I'm doing isn't maybe good, but I want to be great. So I want to talk to someone great that's has something that's working for them currently. So that leads me to a question, which is, right now, you are one of the best givers in this community across many, many levels, obviously, and now with the service provider businesses with PPC and direct mail. What's working for you right now? Like, you always are next. You're ahead, usually 2 or 3 steps from most people. What's something right now that you can share with the listeners that you feel like is just something that you're crushing with right now?
I think we're really figuring out the formula for hiring, and it's taken years, right? My favorite book I read many years ago, Principles by Ray Dalio. I don't know, have you read it?
I haven't, but you've told me to read it multiple times now. So I guess I have to read it.
Yeah. I was a big fan of Ray because I was a finance major originally, and he built the largest hedge fund in the world, Bridgewater. And in his book, he said, the guy's brilliant, 165 IQ, has all the right traits to come from a middle-class family where he had to work hard. He figures out how to put together 6 assessments and a formula for hiring to build Bridgewater, which today is the largest hedge fund in the world. And he said that his 6 assessments can beat his entire executive team on interviewing. He can just go 6 assessments and no interviews, and it's going to beat his subjective, executive team. And when I read that, I was like, wow. Like, if that's possible and we could hire, using assessments and take the subjectivity out of, or I like this person or I don't like this person. It's just a matter of, are they a good fit or not? What could that do for your business? And, like Collective Genius brought the predictive index in, which is our favorite assessment. And it's really grown through the whole industry because of it, especially with Sharper pushing it. It's just got it to a point now where we've got past those 10,000 hours of using these assessments now.
Yeah.
And we just the littlest things that you wouldn't think matter, we now can identify. And it's really made a difference. And there's a difference between someone inside sales versus outside sales, or in person versus on the phone. And there's all these little traits that on the outside, until you've spent time, you wouldn't know that you can really pinpoint who the right person is. And I think that's allowed us to build some of these businesses where I'm not even involved in the interview process. I never talk to them. I can look at a few pieces of paper and hire them. And it's pretty bold. I think that scares a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I put my money where my mouth is, and I did it with my EA. So everyone's like, "You really going to do it?" I'm like, "I'm going to do it. I'm not even going to talk to her. I'm just going to look at her 5 assessments and make the decision." And everybody else in the firm's like, "Well, we're going to interview her. We're worried. You can't do this." So I did it, and she's great. And everyone agrees she's the best EA we've had in a long time. So it is possible, and just because it seems so foreign and different, Ray did it. He's proven the model. It means it's possible. So we've really gone down that rabbit hole, and I think it's allowed us to grow and find really talented people.
Well, a couple things there. Number one, I know that you're great at it, because if your team is coming to you and they're great at developing a system, because if your team's coming to you and saying, "Hey, we're worried about you hiring someone," that tells me that you've done well with hiring and figuring it out. I will also say, Phil, I can't tell you one person, and as long as I've done this, average probably 3 to 5 conversations a week with investors that are outside doing, an interview with me to potentially see if this is a fit for them. And I have never had one person say, the thing I have figured out is hiring. There's a few people that put it as their strength and something that they would want to give that are currently in the group. Clearly, hiring sets people apart in this industry. And that's not opinion, that's fact. But most people, will tell you that even when they think they have it figured out, they don't. And so just know that more than likely after this, you'll get hit up a few times from investors across the country, because I can tell you this: if everyone had it figured out, everyone would have much, much bigger businesses than they have today, and may not need a community as much as they need us now, because operations and hiring are the two biggest things that people struggle with in this industry. You know that. You see it because you come to our select level meetings, and even though you're at the CEO level, you see multiple levels and understand what people's biggest pain points are, and it's hiring always.
It is, and I've built a team now. Our lead recruiter, she's awesome, really bright girl. She's used to probably 5 or so shared texts a week where it's another investor from one of the groups in CG that I'm introing to her, and she's going to do all the assessments for him and take him down the rabbit hole. And she's so obsessed with them. She loves to sit there and talk with them. So I think I get somewhere between 3 to 5 different people a week asking about this role or that role. Can you help me? I know it's a lot of time, but I tell them it's actually really a few seconds. I'm just going to introduce them to her, and she takes it from there. And I think I've built that on purpose so that we can continue to help, the whole community. And it's helped a lot of people. And people come back to me 6 months later and they say, "Hey, she blocked 2 of mine. I was so mad because I was like, they're wrong. We liked them, but we listened, and then we finally hired the right one, and man, they're the right fit." Like I just, it's really something when the data tells you no or yes, and you disagree because you either like them or you don't, but then you get to see it 6 months later. And it goes vice versa. Sometimes I hire them either way. And then it ends up, they come back and they go, "You were right. How did you know?"
Right.
I go, "Well, if you really want to know, I'll go and I'll show you." And I show them. They go, "Okay, well, this time we're going to listen to the data." and then they wait till they have the right person data-wise and then hire them, and they're just blown. They're fans for life. Like, well, how do I learn more? I'm like, well,
I think that's so crucial that over the course of doing this podcast, I think there's a lot of commonalities between all of the members that have been on so far. The biggest one, that I'm going to feature right now is people are very consistent with standards, whether that's a standard on a minimum COG score or a very specific PI for a very specific role. There are standards across the board. It's not just, there's nothing wrong with a gut feeling on someone as long as their predictive index or their personality profile fits the role that you're hiring for. But I've consistently seen as people have leveled up, it's because they've leveled up that process and not just going with their gut. And I think over the last 10 years within this group, I've continued to see a more professional process being implemented because of more people like yourself. I mean, you did a fantastic workshop last year that was, it was just that. It was a masterclass on, taking people from 0 to 1 and beyond on hiring. And I know that, you have received a lot, but obviously you're giving a lot in that is one that I can definitely say that, you guys have clearly spent a lot of time on hiring and developed that process. And to all those out there, that this isn't easy. I mean, hiring is probably going to continue to be most investors, hardest task in order to continue to grow and scale. You can't scale without people and process. And figuring out over time, being around people like Phil ultimately will help you with that learning curve and figuring how to find the best people for the roles that you're hiring for.
Totally.
All right. So tell me this. What has, as a whole, like if you could sum up what CG has done for your business over the years, and you could just summarize it in a few words, what would it be?
I think CG is a community first, and that community can help you in so many ways, whether it's personal, professional, business. Now for me, it's helped me in all those ways, but I'll stay on the business because I think that's what most people here are listening for. Its biggest benefit is, imagine as leader of your company, there's 300 plus other individuals just like you across the country that have experienced the same struggles, the same hardships, the same lessons, and that have mastered something with 10,000 hours of their time that's completely different that you don't know. And what CG does is it gives you the ability in that go-giver community to learn from them. Every single person in that room has a skill and knowledge that you don't have, and you can learn from them. And when you show up with that kind of mindset, you can learn so much and you can constantly grow, and there's no end to it. And that's really what it's done for us is, every person in that room has knowledge in something that we don't have, and we learn from them. And then we take it, we add it to our business and get it better every single year, every single quarter. And I think that open-minded approach is what has allowed CG to just give us so much. So I know a lot of people are like, well, you give back a lot. I'm like, well, I need to, because I've got so much. And just inside, I need to give back more. It's important to me. I've got so much, and I'm so fortunate. My business wouldn't be close to where it is today without CG. And at the end of the day now, it gives me satisfaction to give back. That's why I do it. It's fun. I guess it's selfish. It's actually selfish. I enjoy seeing others win and giving back. I guess that's the truth, but it's great to see others be in a similar role you were and then elevate every quarter and see them make those changes and adjust and win. And I get a lot of satisfaction out of it.
Have you always had the mindset that you can learn from anyone? Because if I could give the audience an example here. So we have 4 different levels. Most of you know, we started, the CEO room in 2024. And Phil was one of those first members in that room that elevated into the highest level. But yet, it's multiple marketing companies and helps people with PPC and direct mail. A lot of our investors and members across the country utilize your services. And so Phil also comes to our select and elevate rooms 3 times a year. And I'm using this as the example to get my point across. Recently, we were at a meeting here in Florida, and I saw your notes. Here we are at a select and elevate level meeting, and you're talking to select level, elevate level people, and yet you have just an absolute phone full of pages of notes. Where's that come from? Because most people that I run across, I don't want to be in that room because, I need to be in the highest level room. Yet you are taking notes from people that are at the select level. That's not something that most people do. Where does that come from?
I think it's just a mindset thing. I was really fortunate when I was 17. I got a copy of How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And I think I read that book 12 times in a row because I really liked it at the time. It shifted what I believed. At the time, I had a scarcity mindset, and it shifted it to abundance. And it kind of just made me rethink a lot of what I thought was the right way, the right path in life. And I went down a rabbit hole, read another 200 self-help books, but I won't go down that and all of them. But the real thing I took away from Dale's book was, and he said it was, a lot of his books, Dale Carnegie, he said, every single person out there knows something better than you, has some skill set, has some knowledge that you don't have. And if you're open-minded and willing to learn from them, you have an unlimited path to growth. And it stuck with me. I took that mindset, and I think throughout life, college, everything I did, I saw that was true, and I think the more I saw that, the more it reaffirmed that belief, and it just became ingrained in who I am. And to this day, I truly believe you can learn something from everyone. You just have to be open-minded, and you have to go seek it.
I think it's something that I want to stress to everyone that's listening to this, regardless if you are, an investor that's been in this business for 20 plus years or someone that's just, starting out. That mindset right there will get you so much farther, faster. And it's not something that I run across that often. And so it's unique, quite frankly, Phil. One that, I wish more people, hopefully people listening to this will hear this and start to shift that. Because I've always said since we started our select level group, that there were so many young investors that were hungry to get to where you and other members are and were at the time, that they were figuring out how to do deals for a lot less cost per contract than most of the people at the higher levels. So clearly they knew something that the higher levels didn't. And seeing that, having the type of mindset that you have, and hopefully others adjust to, there's always something that you can learn and implement from someone else, not just in business, but obviously is in life as well. So just, if you listen to this and you go to any event, your local RIA, what have you, there is someone in that room, honestly, that you can learn a lot from, and everyone you can learn a little something from as well. So, all right. So that's another superpower, one that I wanted to point out here because, in order to maximize groups like ours, the Collective Genius, number one, you have to give. And number two, you have to be willing to listen to what others might be able to give you in return. And you've mentioned several books here, but let's get into Is there a book that you've gifted more often or suggested more often than another?
Yeah, my favorite book of all time it's old Ray Dalio's Principles for sure. I think I buy 27 copies a year and I hand them out usually by the first quarter because I just love that book. He has so many great principles in that book. I could write a 10-hour course on life principles in there. But the reason why I think it stuck with me is because he said, if someone would have given me this book at age 18, I could have moved twice as fast in my career because it's a collection of all my life experiences and lessons I've learned given to you. And when I read that, I was like, man, if a guy who's built what this guy's built, been through what he's been through, is saying it's this valuable, I'm going to pay attention to this book. And it really molded and I think built a lot of our companies based on those same principles of decision-making, core values, just a lot of what he talks about. We built our companies that way.
You mentioned reading books multiple times. How many books do you read a year? And then of those, how many do you read multiple times?
So I feel like if you asked me that question prior to kids, I would give you like 4x the number I have today.
Yeah.
I don't get to read as much as I used to. It's cherished time now. Probably a dozen books I'd be lucky if I can read nowadays a year. It's hard.
What was it before kids?
Oh man, I would
50?
Yeah, I've consumed so many. Yeah, I wouldn't even know. And the best ones I read at least once a year again. Just because I think each time you read them, you take away new things that you didn't get prior.
Yeah.
Like Principles is a good one. Every time.
You have another one that you read every year that you can suggest?
Yeah, there's a couple I read. I really like Sales Acceleration Formula. I read that one at least once a year and change some sort of process or system on the sales side that makes us better. That's a great book.
So clearly we know you like to implement things that you learn and you like to learn from others. There's a lot of superpowers here, but give me one thing. It could be business, could be life. Give me one thing that no one, including me, knows about you.
No one knows about me? Probably if I got to, 9 or 10 figures, billions of dollars, I probably gave every dollar of it away at the end of my life. I don't
give that to me again.
Money.
You would
said if I made if I make billions and earn all that money, I would give it all away. Every dollar of it.
So you're doing the Warren Buffett? You're just going to give it all away?
I don't think I've done anything I've done for the money. And so many people are like, oh, how do you get to that level, make money and do all this? I said, I don't think that's what I went out with. That wasn't my goal. I just loved the game, tried to elevate as many people as we could around me, and just had a lot of fun in the process. And the byproduct of winning in the business world, right? It's a little different than on the football field. Well, I guess in the NFL you can make money too. You end up making money, and that's kind of the scorecard. So I think at the end of the day, for me, it's I do what I love, and I love what I do. It isn't so much about the money and the success. I think everyone has different reasons they do what they do, but it's really fun to now see others elevate with you, to build companies and to see partners grow and to see individuals, amass good little fortunes and have a whole different life they never knew possible. And not only does it provide value to your team and your employees and your partners, but changing those lives is what really has become one of my favorite things now to see.
Jason Medley says all the time, it's what is it? And the journey's not worth making all this money if you can't share it with others and help them reach their goals as well. I will tell you one thing I learned on this podcast that I didn't know about you. If I had to boil down everything that we've discussed today, there's so much good. But early on, I was like, man, I'd never seen this in Phil, but I could see him doing it. Like, has anyone ever told you could have been a great, great anything, but specifically after this conversation, I'm like, man, if you would have gone into coaching, like for sports, you would have been the hot young offensive coordinator that every NFL team wanted to hire, or the offensive coordinator every college wanted to hire. Did you ever think about that? I could have seen now after this, I could have seen you as a football coach at the collegiate or the NFL level.
Definitely. I think coaching was always something I enjoyed just as much as playing. It's kind of funny. Nowadays, even on the fishing boat anymore, I'm just coaching everyone, trying to get them to hold on to the fish right, because the thing's just running away. I actually take just as much pleasure and enjoyment in seeing others win. A couple of times I got injured playing video games once and broke my thumb on the baseball field, so I wasn't able to play. So I just coached one year and we still won. Yeah, I guess that's true. Even in sports, a couple seasons when I got hurt, I would still sit there with the coach and help him. It was always something I enjoyed too, not just being the player.
Who knew that you could get injured reserve playing video games? Didn't know that until today.
It's pretty funny, actually.
Only you would break your finger while being someone that won $250,000 with the team gaming competition. You've got so many things. I forgot about the fishing part of it. And you're absolutely right. I've seen this for those listening. I've been on a fishing boat multiple times, big fishing charter with Phil going after tuna. And he will literally put the pole in the water, hand it to somebody else, and then go get another one and try to help make sure that everyone has a great experience. And I would say that's a good cap on just you in general in anything that you're doing. I've seen it firsthand and in action. Is that the thing that you're most excited about? I mean, obviously all the businesses. What's the one that you have the most passion for right now? Is it the boats? Is it the fishing charters that you own?
I think we haven't even touched it really. It'd be a different assessment that tells me, but I love tinkering and exploring and building new things. And for me right now, it's the cutting edge of what I think we're going with AI. And it's the new tech we're building with AI and what I think it's going to do to revolutionize our world.
Is that next for you then on all the businesses that you're doing? AI is the next play?
Yeah, I really think it is. I mean, we're going to continue to grow the marketing side because you need to have that, right? To have a reliable real estate business. And we're building a lot of ground up stuff out here too. But really, I think the major play is the biggest transformation we're going to see in the next decade is what AI does to our industries. And we're tinkering with some really cool stuff that a couple of these are going to turn into really big businesses and I think change the game.
Yeah. So that's something that we should talk about, at least with Brian Snyder, our COO, because another piece of feedback that we've received over the last couple of years is, an innovation track at every single meeting, and just technology in general and how it's changing and evolving. What is known as more mom and pop real estate investing operations are becoming more tech savvy. And so we'll continue to have that conversation as you find, because I know if you ever want to know the latest technology of what would help you move your business forward, Phil's your guy, because you're always looking for the best software or the best technology to help, have a leg up, not only on the competition, but just in general and all the businesses. So give me this, if people want to get a hold of you as we wrap up here, if people want to get a hold of you first, how do they do that? And second, make sure that you get out all of the things that you're helping investors with as well. I want to make sure that, you talk about PPC Force and those before we get out of here.
Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook, Phil Green, IG. I can give you all that. You can follow this in the notes, right?
Yeah, we'll put all of that in the notes, but
yeah,
I've already got them actually in the notes, so we're good there. I just want to make sure that the best way to get a hold of you.
Probably direct message. Usually the fastest. Email, we have so many of them, I probably only check it once a day, so it takes a while to get back sometimes with people. Direct message is usually faster. And they kind of touch on our companies. Yeah, they're growing. PPC Force, we're the largest, digital PPC company now for real estate investors nationwide. And Direct Mail Force is the same. We've grown very quickly thanks to Collective Genius, and a lot of these top operators are seeing results they've never seen. And once a couple of them hear the news, it quickly expands and we grow. So we've been very fortunate to be part of the community. And we were extremely fortunate to have operated in SoCal, which was such a challenging market. We just didn't know any better and took a decade to figure out what works here. And it works for everybody across the country. And every quarter, as an operator first, we're testing and toying with all kinds of new pieces, new strategies. And then whatever works, we then take that and give it to everybody as a vendor. So I think that's the real difference why we're better than other vendors, is that we're an operator first. We test everything as an operator. Once it succeeds, then we give it to everybody else because we know it works.
Right.
And I think that's an advantage that other vendors don't have that aren't an operator first. They may run 3 different campaigns. We see one converts way better. We're not even going to waste those other 2 because I don't want you to have a low ROI. I want you to have the best possible ROI, just like my team does. So we give you the marketing that we're using here in SoCal. That's really what it is.
Well, I can attest for both. I know that a lot. I don't even know the number anymore. In a short amount of time, that PPC Force with Steve, and again, hiring great people to do a great job for not only your company, but also those across the country. I can attest. I know a lot of members utilize your services and are making a ton of money and growing their businesses with your marketing services. And I'm sure after those 2 continue to grow, that they'll be the next thing, because you're always on to the next iteration to make sure that you're highest and best on all things for your business and businesses, I should say. So I want to thank you and appreciate the conversation and appreciate the time. I want to say that during meetings, I always make it a point to have a longer conversation with you. But it doesn't always work out that way for 2 reasons. Number one, I'm typically super busy. And number 2, you have a line. You literally had a line of people in Sarasota recently that were lined up to talk to you like you were Santa Claus. I was waiting for people to come over and sit on your lap.
Thanks, Leon. I've been really, really fortunate to be part of the community, and I don't think it would be even 50% where we are today without it. And really, I try to give back as much as I can, like at that event in Sarasota, just because I know I've been so fortunate to have found this group.
Yeah, and we appreciate you more than you know as a longtime member of this organization and a true go-giver. Obviously, we've given you a bunch of awards for that for a reason. It's not just because we like you. It's because you are a true go-giver and a great member of this organization. So with that, I again say thank you for taking the time. I know you're a busy man. And if you would like to be in a room with someone just like Phil Green, that is a giver and at the highest levels of real estate investing in a very, very competitive market, and you can do that by checking out more at thecollectivegenius.com. And if you feel like it's something that you would like to check out, then easily all you have to do is fill out an application. It's all there on the website, thecollectivegenius.com. And if you like this conversation, feel free to tell your friends about the Collective Genius podcast, like, subscribe, do all those things that the young kids do. Would appreciate those likes, would appreciate any comments for this Collective Genius podcast. Again, I want to thank my guest, Mr. Phil Green, for joining me today. We will see you next week.
Are you ready to scale your real estate business? Visit thecollectivegenius.com, where real estate investors come to scale. Subscribe to the Collective Genius podcast and hit the bell icon to be notified when our next episode releases. And thanks for listening.